Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, like everything is just too much to handle? Well, what if I told you the key to finding peace and happiness doesn't lie in what you have or who you are, but in how you think? In today's video, we're diving into powerful Buddhist teachings that can help you navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease and wisdom. These teachings aren't just for Buddhists, they're for anyone looking to find calm in the chaos, release negativity, and truly understand the nature of happiness. Whether you're stressed, feeling lost, or simply searching for a sense of peace, these ancient insights offer practical ways to live a more fulfilling life. From practicing forgiveness to living with intention, and from embracing generosity to letting go of ego, these simple yet profound ideas can transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. Join us as we explore how these timeless Buddhist principles can help you break free from suffering and create a life filled with joy, peace, and purpose. This isn't about rules, it's about finding freedom in the present moment. Ready to discover the power within you? Let's begin. 1. Happiness depends on what you think, not what you have. In the fast-paced world we live in, it's easy to believe that happiness is tied to external factors like wealth, status, or possessions. Society often tells us that if we just acquire more or reach certain milestones, we will feel fulfilled. But in reality, true happiness doesn't come from what you have, it comes from how you think. The Buddha taught that the mind shapes our experiences. Our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes are the true drivers of our emotions and perceptions. By cultivating positive and mindful thoughts, we can find contentment, regardless of our material circumstances. When we focus on gratitude, compassion, and inner peace, we begin to realize that happiness is a state of mind, not a destination we need to reach. The more we change our inner dialogue to one that is focused on the present moment and the beauty within and around us, the more we discover that happiness is always available, regardless of our external situation. 2. Buddhism offers powerful teachings to overcome life's challenges. Life is full of unpredictable challenges. Whether it's dealing with stress, loss, disappointment, or personal struggles, it can often feel overwhelming. Buddhism offers timeless wisdom to help us cope with life's difficulties, providing not just comfort but practical tools to transform suffering. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence, the idea that everything, both good and bad, is temporary. This insight helps us realize that difficult moments will pass, just as joyful ones do. Additionally, Buddhism teaches us to embrace mindfulness and meditation, which help us to stay grounded and focused during hard times. By practicing awareness, we can separate ourselves from our emotions, allowing us to observe them without being consumed by them. This awareness helps us deal with challenges in a calmer, more balanced way. Furthermore, the concept of non-attachment in Buddhism encourages us to let go of the need to control everything, which ultimately reduces suffering. Life's obstacles become less intimidating when we understand that they are simply part of the human experience. Through Buddhist teachings, we gain the tools to find peace amidst the chaos, allowing us to respond to life with wisdom and compassion. 3. Practice forgiveness to free yourself from resentment and suffering. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful practices in Buddhism, as it is the path to freeing ourselves from the chains of anger, resentment, and pain. When we hold on to grudges, we continue to suffer long after the event or person that caused the hurt is no longer present. Resentment is like carrying a heavy weight that drags us down, preventing us from moving forward with our lives. Buddha taught that holding on to negative emotions like anger is like holding onto a burning coal, intending to throw it at someone else, but it's the person holding the coal who gets burned. By forgiving, we release ourselves from that burning weight. Forgiveness in Buddhism is not about excusing or forgetting the harm done, but about letting go of the attachment to the pain and anger that the event caused. It is a way of healing the heart, allowing space for love, peace, and compassion to grow. Practicing forgiveness isn't just beneficial for the person being forgiven, it brings healing to the one doing the forgiving. It frees the mind from negative emotions, allowing us to cultivate a peaceful and joyful life. When we forgive, we let go of our attachment to suffering and open ourselves to greater emotional freedom. The act of forgiving is liberating because it enables us to break free from the cycles of hatred and resentment, helping us live a life filled with more peace and understanding. 4. Forgiveness in Buddhism is not just forgetting, it's letting go of emotional attachment. In Buddhism, forgiveness is a deeply transformative practice, but it's often misunderstood. Many people think that forgiving means simply forgetting about the wrongs done to them or letting others off the hook for their actions. However, Buddhist forgiveness is not about erasing the past or excusing harmful behavior. It's about releasing our emotional attachment to the pain that those actions caused. Holding on to past hurts only serves to reinforce our suffering. We can choose to let go of the emotional charge attached to those memories, which allows us to move forward with a lighter heart. Buddhism teaches that our attachments, whether to people, outcomes, or experiences, are the root of much of our suffering. By forgiving, we free ourselves from the cycle of attachment and negative emotions that keep us trapped in the past. When we forgive, we acknowledge that the actions of others do not define us. We let go of the need for retribution or revenge, which allows us to break free from the grip of anger. The Buddha encouraged us to forgive not just others, but ourselves as well. Self-forgiveness is a crucial part of healing, as it helps us release guilt and shame. Through the practice of forgiveness, we find that we can carry less emotional baggage, experience more peace, and ultimately live a more compassionate and fulfilling life. 1. Living with intention allows you to align your actions with your values. Living with intention means making conscious decisions that reflect your core values and deeper purpose in life. In Buddhism, intention is seen as a guiding force that shapes not only our actions but also our thoughts and words. It's easy to get lost in the chaos of everyday life and to act out of habit, reaction, or external pressures, but when we live intentionally, we bring mindfulness to each moment. This allows us to align our actions with what we truly care about, whether it's compassion, honesty, or kindness. When we live with intention, we don't simply go through the motions, we are actively aware of how our choices impact ourselves and others. It requires us to reflect on what really matters to us, what we want to contribute to the world, what kind of relationships we want to cultivate, and what type of life we want to lead. Living intentionally is about being proactive rather than reactive. It means making decisions that reflect our values, even in the face of difficulty or distraction. In Buddhism, this alignment of actions with values is essential to the path of spiritual growth. Each action, thought, and word becomes an opportunity to express our deepest intentions, and in doing so, we cultivate a life of meaning and fulfillment. Living with intention doesn't mean we are always perfect or flawless, but it encourages us to be mindful of our choices, striving to create harmony between our inner beliefs and the way we interact with the world. This alignment fosters a sense of peace and contentment, as we are no longer torn between conflicting desires or actions that don't reflect who we truly are. 2. Generosity, a key virtue in Buddhism, connects us with others. Generosity is one of the fundamental virtues in Buddhism and is deeply tied to the concepts of compassion and interconnectedness. When we practice generosity, we give not just material things, but also our time, attention, love, and kindness. The act of giving creates a sense of connection with others, transcending the boundaries of self and reminding us that we are all interdependent. In Buddhism, generosity is seen as a way to dissolve the ego, breaking down the barriers that separate us from others. The Buddha taught that by giving selflessly, we cultivate qualities like compassion, humility, and understanding. Generosity, in this sense, is not just about charity or acts of giving, but about developing a mindset of openness and compassion toward others. Practicing generosity shifts our focus away from what we can get and redirects it toward what we can give. This shift in perspective fosters a sense of interconnection, reminding us that others' well-being is as important as our own. Whether it's offering a listening ear, volunteering our time, or donating resources, every act of generosity creates a ripple effect that nurtures both the giver and the receiver. Generosity also helps reduce suffering in Buddhism. By letting go of our attachment to material things and practicing selfless giving, we learn to break free from the cycle of desire and dissatisfaction that often causes suffering. Instead of clinging to possessions or achievements, we find joy in sharing and contributing to the happiness of others. In this way, generosity becomes both a practice of compassion and a means of personal growth, ultimately leading to a more harmonious and fulfilling life. 3. Cultivating generosity transforms the mind and aids in the liberation from suffering. Generosity is more than just a noble act, it is a transformative practice in Buddhism that has the power to reshape our hearts and minds. The Buddha taught that generosity, or dana, is one of the most important practices on the path to enlightenment, as it frees us from the mental afflictions of greed, selfishness, and attachment. By practicing generosity, we are not only helping others but also nurturing our own liberation from suffering. When we give freely, without expectation of receiving anything in return, we break the grip of attachment. Attachment to material possessions, status, or even relationships often creates a sense of scarcity and desire. This desire fuels suffering, as we are constantly chasing after things we believe will bring us happiness. However, when we practice generosity, we let go of this desire for control and allow ourselves to experience true contentment. Generosity teaches us to recognize the abundance in our lives, encouraging a mindset of gratitude and appreciation instead of one of lack. Generosity also fosters compassion, as it allows us to recognize the shared humanity in others. It softens the heart and brings awareness to the interconnectedness of all beings. As we give, we become more attuned to the needs of others, which allows us to act with more kindness and understanding. This deepens our relationships and contributes to a more compassionate and harmonious world. Through consistent acts of generosity, the mind begins to shift from one dominated by self-interest to one focused on the well-being of others. This shift is a critical part of the Buddhist path, as it leads to the dissolution of the ego and a deeper sense of unity with all beings. Generosity, therefore, is not just an external practice, it is an internal transformation that leads us closer to liberation from suffering. 4. Self-reflection is essential for personal growth in Buddhism. Self-reflection is a core practice in Buddhism, essential for gaining insight into the nature of the self and the world around us. Buddhism teaches that to truly understand our experiences and transcend suffering, we must look inward and examine our thoughts, emotions, and actions. This process of self-inquiry is not about self-judgment or criticism, but about cultivating awareness and understanding. Through self-reflection, we come to understand the impermanence of our thoughts and emotions. Buddhist teachings emphasize that everything is temporary, including our feelings and mental states. By reflecting on this, we can begin to let go of attachments to fleeting desires, fears, and attachments that lead to suffering. Understanding that emotions and experiences arise and pass away can help us avoid becoming overly identified with them, which is a major source of distress. In meditation, mindfulness, and introspection, Buddhists seek to understand the underlying causes of suffering, such as ignorance, desire, and aversion. Through self-reflection, we become aware of the ways these mental afflictions manifest in our lives and can begin to work through them. By examining our intentions, actions, and thoughts, we gain the clarity needed to make wiser choices that lead to inner peace and spiritual growth. Self-reflection is also key to developing wisdom and compassion. As we observe our own experiences and reactions, we gain insight into the experiences of others, fostering empathy and understanding. This deepened self-awareness leads to greater emotional resilience, as we begin to respond to challenges with wisdom and compassion rather than reaction and ignorance. Ultimately, self-reflection in Buddhism is a pathway to liberation, helping us understand the true nature of our minds and the world, leading to greater freedom and enlightenment. 1. The ego is an illusion that generates suffering, letting go of it is liberating. In Buddhism, the ego is seen as a false sense of self that creates a sense of separation between ourselves and the world around us. This illusion of ego is built on attachment to the idea of a permanent, unchanging I or self. However, the Buddha taught that this self is not permanent or independent, it is, in fact, constantly changing and interdependent with everything else. The more we cling to the ego, the more we suffer because we are bound to the fluctuations of our desires, fears, and attachments. The ego constantly seeks validation, power, and control. It craves pleasure, avoids pain, and strives to maintain its sense of superiority or uniqueness. This creates a cycle of constant dissatisfaction, because the ego is always trying to fill an insatiable void. It fosters the belief that happiness is dependent on external circumstances, wealth, status, or approval from others, but these things are temporary and fleeting, leading to further suffering. Letting go of the ego doesn't mean we lose our individuality or personality. It means releasing our attachment to the idea that we are separate from the rest of existence. When we let go of this illusion, we stop clinging to the past or worrying about the future, and we become more present, open, and compassionate. We start to recognize that we are interconnected with all beings, and this awareness brings liberation. Without the weight of the ego, we experience true freedom, the freedom to act with kindness, to live authentically, and to embrace the impermanence of life with peace. The act of releasing the ego is liberating because it allows us to transcend the patterns of self-centered desire and fear that often drive our actions. This freedom from the ego leads to inner peace and reduces the suffering that arises from attachment to a false sense of self. 2. Detachment in Buddhism frees you from distress and brings peace. In Buddhism, detachment is not about abandoning the world or becoming indifferent. It is about letting go of attachment to things, people, or outcomes. Detachment is a practice of cultivating a healthy relationship with the world around us, without becoming overly fixated or emotionally bound to it. The Buddha taught that attachment leads to suffering because it creates a sense of dependency on impermanent things, which are bound to change. Whether it is attachment to material possessions, relationships, or even our own identity, clinging to anything that is transient creates inner turmoil when those things inevitably change or are lost. When we practice detachment, we release the need to control or possess, and instead, we cultivate acceptance of the ever-changing nature of life. This doesn't mean we stop caring about others or withdrawing from life. Rather, we learn to engage with life more mindfully and gracefully. We begin to see things as they truly are, impermanent, interconnected, and constantly shifting. Through detachment, we find freedom from the anxiety that arises when we grasp too tightly to things we cannot hold onto forever. Detachment leads to peace because it helps us embrace life's natural ebb and flow. We no longer cling to desires, outcomes, or the pursuit of external validation. Instead, we focus on cultivating an inner state of calm and equanimity, unaffected by external circumstances. We learn to appreciate the present moment, knowing that everything, both good and bad, is temporary. In Buddhist practice, detachment is closely linked with mindfulness and meditation, which help us observe our thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. By becoming more aware of our attachments, we can gradually release them, freeing ourselves from the distress they cause. Ultimately, detachment leads to a peaceful mind, one that is not disturbed by the fluctuations of external events. 3. Joy in Buddhism is cultivated from within, regardless of external circumstances. In Buddhism, joy is not something that is dependent on external circumstances or material success. Rather, it is seen as an inner quality that arises from cultivating a peaceful and balanced mind. True joy is not fleeting or conditional on what happens outside of us. Instead, it is a deep sense of contentment that comes from within, grounded in mindfulness, gratitude, and self-awareness. The Buddha taught that our minds are naturally inclined toward joy and happiness, but they are often clouded by attachment, craving, and aversion. When we are attached to desires or outcomes, we are constantly seeking external sources of happiness, which are often temporary and unreliable. This leads to a cycle of dissatisfaction and disappointment. However, when we practice mindfulness and look inward, we can discover a wellspring of joy that is independent of external circumstances. One of the keys to cultivating joy in Buddhism is to let go of expectations and judgments. When we stop comparing ourselves to others or striving for perfection, we begin to experience life as it is, with all its ups and downs, and find contentment in the present moment. Joy in Buddhism is also deeply connected to compassion. When we cultivate love and kindness for others, we experience a deep sense of fulfillment and connection that naturally brings joy into our lives. Buddhists believe that joy is not an emotion to be pursued, it is a state of mind that can be nurtured through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and gratitude. By focusing on the present moment and letting go of attachment to outcomes, we can cultivate a steady, unwavering sense of joy that remains constant regardless of life's inevitable challenges. 4. Practicing gratitude and mindfulness are key to cultivating joy. Gratitude and mindfulness are two essential practices in Buddhism that are closely linked to the cultivation of joy. Both practices shift our focus from what we lack or desire to what we already have, helping us cultivate a deeper appreciation for the present moment and the abundance in our lives. Gratitude, in Buddhism, is about recognizing the countless gifts we receive from the world around us, both big and small. It involves acknowledging the interdependence of all things, the relationships, opportunities, and even challenges that shape our lives. By practicing gratitude, we become more attuned to the positive aspects of our experiences rather than focusing on what is missing or wrong. Gratitude helps us release feelings of entitlement or dissatisfaction, replacing them with a sense of contentment and peace. It also fosters a deeper connection to others, as we recognize and appreciate the support and love we receive from those around us. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or distraction. When we cultivate mindfulness, we become aware of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations as they arise, allowing us to experience life more directly and without distortion. Mindfulness helps us recognize when our minds are caught in patterns of craving, aversion, or restlessness, and gently brings us back to the present moment. In this space of awareness, we can cultivate joy by simply appreciating the richness of each moment, whether it's a simple breath, a conversation, or a moment of stillness. Together, gratitude and mindfulness create a powerful foundation for cultivating joy. When we are grateful for the present moment and mindful of its fleeting nature, we naturally experience a sense of joy that is not dependent on external circumstances. By practicing both gratitude and mindfulness daily, we can foster a deep, abiding sense of joy that is rooted in the present moment, allowing us to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and happiness. As we reflect on these teachings, it's clear that true peace, joy, and freedom come from within, not from the external world. The practice of letting go of the ego, cultivating mindfulness, and embracing detachment allows us to find a deeper connection with ourselves and the world around us. We all face challenges in life, but by integrating these Buddhist principles into our daily practice, we can begin to transform our minds and hearts. Remember, happiness is not something you find, it's something you cultivate. By living with intention, practicing gratitude, and letting go of attachments, you're on the path to inner peace and true liberation. If this video has resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on one of these teachings and how you can incorporate it into your life today. Don't let these ideas just remain as concepts, put them into practice, and watch how they transform your life, one moment at a time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and join our community, where we explore more ways to live mindfully and grow together. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. How are you planning to apply these teachings in your life? I'd love to hear from you. Take care, and until next time, may peace and joy be with you.